Chapter 2 Two Gentlemen from Frog Creek. Jack and Annie were both dressed in brown and green velvet jackets and dark pants. They wore loose wool caps and shiny new boots. Jack's backpack had become a green velvet bag with a brass buckle. "Fancy clothes," said Jack. "Well, at least I'm not wearing a giant skirt like I wore in Vienna," said Annie. "Yeah, and these boots aren't full of holes like the boots we wore in Ireland," said Jack. "So, where did we land?" said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window. The tree house had landed in a row of big trees. Beyond the trees was a grassy park with gardens and pathways. Bordering the park was a busy road filled with horse-drawn carriages. Autumn sunlight shone on rooftops, towers, and church steeples. Black smoke rose from hundreds of chimneys. "London looks great," said Annie. "Let's start looking for Charles Dickens." "Wait, I'll check the book first," said Jack. Jack looked in the index of their book and found Charles Dickens. He turned to a page with a photograph of a handsome man with wavy brown hair and huge eyes. Jack read, "Charles Dickens was born in England in 1812. He is one of the most famous writers of all time." "Of all time?" said Annie. "Wow, he shouldn't be hard to find." "Well, maybe he isn't famous yet," said Jack. "If he is, why would he need our help?" Good question," said Annie. "Let's start looking for the answer." "Okay, but first you better hide your pigtails," said Jack. "Oh, right, I'm supposed to be a boy," said Annie. She tucked her pigtails under her cap. In the past, girls didn't have many choices, did they? "How do I look?" "Fine," said Jack. "Good, let's go," said Annie. As Annie climbed out of the treehouse, Jack unbuckled the green velvet bag. He put their research book and magic violin and bow inside. Then he buckled the bag and followed Annie down the ladder. When Jack stepped off the ladder, he heard jingling in his coat pocket. He reached in and pulled out a handful of coins. "Hey, I have money," he said. Annie dug into her pockets. "Oh, me too," she said. "Great," said Jack. "I didn't like being poor on our last two missions." Jack and Annie crunched through fallen leaves until they came to the open park area. A man stood on a platform giving a speech. Women pushed baby buggies. Children sailed toy boats on a pond. "We have to ask someone for help," said Annie, looking around. "Excuse me," she called to a woman in a flowery bonnet. "Do you know where Charles Dickens live?" "Why, yes, he and his family live at 1 Devonshire Terrace," the woman said, "below Regent's Park." "Thanks," said Annie. "That was easy," said Jack as the woman strolled on. "I guess he's already famous," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack, pulling out their book again. "Let's see if there's a map." He thumbed through the book until he found a map of London. "Here it is, Regent's Park." He looked up. "Where are we now?" "That sign over there says Hyde Park," said Annie. Wrong park," said Jack. He looked at the map again. "Okay, Hyde Park is here, and Regent's Park is here. They're pretty far away from each other." "That's okay," said Annie. "We have money, and London has carriages. This will be fun." "Right," said Jack. "Let's go catch a ride." Jack and Annie hurried over the grass to the busy street bordering the park. Carriages of all shapes and sizes clattered over the cobblestones. 4 high-stepping horses pulled an elegant black coach. 2 donkeys pulled an old wooden wagon with benches. "Excuse me," Jack called to the driver of a small red carriage waiting on the street. "Can you take us to 1 Devonshire Terrace below Regent's Park?" The driver smiled down from his seat. "Indeed, sir," he said. "I would be proud to carry 2 fine young gentlemen across our fair city." Jack caught Annie's eye and smiled. "Thank you," he said. "Climb into my cab, if you please," said the driver. "Where are you gentlemen from?" "Frog Creek," said Annie in a deep voice. "Frog Creek," said the driver. "Lovely place, I'm sure." Then he flicked his reins, and his fat little horse started clopping up the cobblestone street. In the cool autumn air, the red cab clattered by toy shops, bootmakers, and hat makers. The cab passed brick mansions with gardens and ornate buildings with turrets and towers. "This is a beautiful city," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. He pulled out their book and turned to the beginning. One of the first pages showed a portrait of a plump-faced woman in a red robe. She wore a small crown on her head. The Victorian era in England began when Queen Victoria came to the throne in 1837. She ruled for the rest of the century and helped her country become a powerful world empire. Wow, said Annie. She stuck her head out of the window cab and called up to the driver. Excuse me, sir, where's the Queen today? I believe she's on holiday with Prince Albert, said the driver. How long has she been Queen? Asked Annie. Let's see. She was crowned and moved into Buckingham Palace 6 years ago, the driver said. Thanks, said Annie. She sat back in her seat. I love this time in history with a queen, a prince, and a palace. Yep, said Jack. He read on. During the reign of Queen Victoria, England went through a period known as the Industrial Revolution. People no longer worked mainly on farms. The invention of machines led to work in factories and mines. Many people became very wealthy. Jack glanced out the window. The people on the sidewalks did look wealthy. Women and girls dressed in ruffles and ribbons strolled in and out of elegant shops. Boys wore frilly white shirts. Men wore top hats and suits. Jack read on. But while many people became rich in Victorian England, many more worked under terrible conditions. Even young children worked in factories and mines. Rich and poor lived side by side, but they lived in very different worlds. While the rich feasted in grand mansions, the poor often died young of hunger and disease. Whoa, said Annie. Maybe I don't love this time as much as I thought. The horse and cab came to a halt. Here we are, the driver called. 1 Devonshire Terrace. Jack closed their book and looked up. The cab had stopped in front of a high brick wall with an iron gate. Jack and Annie stepped down to the sidewalk. The driver climbed off of his perch. How much do we owe you? Asked Jack. 1 shilling, if you please, sir, said the driver. Jack reached into his pocket and took out a large coin. He had no idea how much it was worth, but he gave it to the driver. I hope this is enough, he said. The man's eyes grew wide. Why, good heavens, I should say it is. Thank you, gentlemen, thank you, thank you. My children, thank you. All the good, hard-working people of the world, thank you. Shall I come to pick you up later? Sorry, but we don't know how long we'll be here, said Jack. Well, perhaps I'll pass by this way now and again, the driver said. If I see you, I shall certainly stop. I'm always pleased to carry such fine young gentlemen. The man bowed. Then he climbed back up into his bench. Good day, good sirs, he called, tipping his hat. As the horse and cab clattered away, Jack looked at Annie. He was nuts, he said. Annie laughed. I think you gave him a lot more than the regular fare, she said. The gate behind Jack and Annie swung open. 3 small children bounded out to the sidewalk, 2 girls with curly hair and a round-faced boy. A woman with a baby followed them out. Mary, Kate, Charlie, wait for me. Hurry, mother, yelled the little boy. You wait for me, Charlie Dickens, the young mother called. She caught up with the children, and they all vanished round the corner. Charlie Dickens? Said Jack, stunned.